Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Monday. This is your House of Orange. This is Frank Rock. I was having a little bit of one of the platforms I was streaming to. All of a sudden, it comes up. You got to have premium Twitter to stream to Twitter. That's a kind of a new one on me. So I was kind of messing around trying to get that fixed real quick. So I apologize about that. But I hope you guys are having a great Monday. We got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of baseball to talk about. We'll talk some football with media days ahead tomorrow. Not a lot of basketball, but there is a little bit of Lady Vols stuff to talk about. As they got some big commitments in the last week, and then some news about a former commitment possibly being back, kind of in the fold here as well. So that's something, or not necessarily in the fold, but visiting later on. So let's get right into this. So to me, or before we get into it, not a huge rush because some of you still getting in here, but if you like the content, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If the biggest thing that helps me is basically sharing out that content. Just that's what gets it out there. Make sure you share it out. Any Vols fans that may like it, may not have be aware of the channel up to this point or anything, come around. Of course, it's NCAA 25. I guess did it come out today? So I know there's people pretty fired up about that. I know there's some streams going on, people playing that. So it used to be a pretty big deal to me back in the day. I don't have any gaming systems anymore. So I've been tempted by this one, know for sure. But we've got all that going on. And then, if you haven't already and you like the content, if you're sharing it out, make sure you're subscribed here as well for notifications. I'm coming up with, I keep saying it. I'm hoping I'll have some kind of a membership tier. I'm trying to get some branding and stuff done right now. I'm waiting to hear back on that. And then just so we can get some perks in here for membership, some things in there. If there's anything, if you're interested in doing a membership, anything you'd be interested in for it, I'm always open to suggestions for what y'all like. So got 12 of you right now. We'll see how long this thing goes. We got some baseball to talk about, though, for sure. Major League Draft, rounds 1 through 10, and then the compensation rounds are in the book. I'm telling you, man, I think Tennessee has got to be very happy right now. First of all, yesterday they had the most players selected with 4, and then had 4 more selected today. What I think they've got to be happy about, only 2 of their high school guys have been selected through 10 rounds. I think that means there's a good shot most of these guys make it to campus. Now, the 2 that were drafted today, I don't see them making it. And there was a guy earlier. Let me see if I think Joe Healy's his name. He tweeted it out, and I think I saw Ben McKee actually tweet it, and it was dead on, though. Let me see if I can find it here and read it. So it was, because I've had some question me on here about when I talk about the draft and guys coming back and guys not going. It never fails. I've had some come on and say, well, why wouldn't they come back if they could think they can come up be a first round if they're just picked in the 7th or 8th round? Now I'm gonna go put it up here, but says that Joe Healy, I think he's with D1 Baseball, said, time for my annual PSA. If your team has a player or recruit drafted today, even if they drop, they are almost certainly signing. Organizations aren't in the business of using a pick in the top 10 rounds on a guy they are not signing. There are exceptions every year, but they are very rare. That's what I've tried to say on these videos I've done on the draft. Want to talk about the portal. Want to talk about the high school rankings and stuff. Now, are there some guys who could get drafted rounds 11 through 20 and not make the campus? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's some, right, Radachek from Niagara. I still think he gets drafted. He's gone. I think Arvidsson at this point, the JUCO commit that Tennessee just got earlier this weekend, I think he's in the boat now. I had read that it would take him being around the first round to go. I still wonder if he was in the top 10 rounds, if he might go, but he has not been picked as of yet. And from think it was McKee, I can't remember who it was, said it, that his asking price has just gone up. So a team's not going to pick him at this point. You get a team, take like the Braves, for example. They drafted Cam Caminiti in the first round who fell to them. But I've noticed the Braves have been going with guys later on who I don't know if they're trying to get some guys later on to go over slot or what. But some of the guys they drafted, they've been drafting nothing but guys who are out eligibility for about the last 4 rounds now. So I don't know within the first 5 rounds if maybe they went over slot on some of them. But now you get these guys out of eligibility, they don't have leverage in their bonus. But out of all the guys drafted, so yesterday, Christian Moore went 8th to the Angels. And I love it, man. I love it because, number one, of course, now you've got Christian Moore and Ben Joyce in that organization. But if you're a Braves fan, you got Ron Washington there as well. Ron Washington was awesome in Atlanta for the time he was there. He got a very well-deserved managerial job with the Angels. Took Eric Young with him. Both those guys did great things in Atlanta. But people probably saw the amount of videos, just Washington working with Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman when he was there, Dansby, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, all these guys just working with them on the infield. And Christian Moore, from what I saw, the Angels said he is going to play second base. The Angels don't have a lot of – their farm system has ranked as like the worst in baseball, and their team is not better than that either. They have wasted – and that's with guys when they had Ohtani. Of course, they had Mike Trout, who to me is one of the most heck of a player when healthy. Overall, I think Mike Trout's he's just not healthy enough. That's there's been people over the years trying to say he's the greatest ever. He's not even in the conversation. He's nowhere even close on it. That's not to disrespect him or take anything away. He's just, when I think of the greats that I've saw, he's not one of them. But Christian Moore may have a quick path to the majors. If he gets up there and gets to work with Ron Washington and Eric Young, I think that's huge for him. Blake Burke, 34th overall. He went in the compensation round. I guess maybe that's considered first round. I'm not sure how they count that, if it's considered first or just compensation, but went 34th to the Brewers. And then you had Billy Amick yesterday, went 60th to the Twins. So that puts him in the organization with Jarrell Ortega, with Jake Rucker from 2021, Ortega from 2022. And then I think it was 65th, Dylan Dreiling to the Texas Rangers. And you pair him here in a couple years when he gets to the majors. Texas will go have an outfield of Dylan Dreiling, Wyatt Langford, and Evan Carter. That's going to be a solid outfield. That's going to be a very solid outfield. Langford is already, Paul Skeens is starting the All-Star game a year after being drafted. Langford, he started the year in Texas. And, of course, Evan Carter, he is hurt right now. I think it's a back injury with him, but he had a heck of a year last year. He'll bounce back from it as well. But good situation for all those guys. Then today, you had Drew Beam, 3rd round to Kansas City. AJ Causey, 5th round to Kansas City. I was wondering on Causey where he would go. I did not see 5th round coming, but hey, hats off to him. Congratulations to him. Aaron Combs went in the 8th round to the White Sox, and Kavaris Tears went, I think it was 4th round to San Diego. So that's 8 of the guys drafted. Hit these couple comments here. Papa J, what's up, man? Good to see you in here. Baseball sure looks promising this season for sure. And then Laura Hubbard said, if I was keeping up correctly, 8 Vols drafted through day 2 plus at least 2 commits. That is absolutely correct. Ty Southacene, shortstop out of Nevada. Trey Snyder, shortstop out of Missouri. They were both drafted, I think, rounds 4 and 5. Cubs, Mets, respectively. So those 2 guys will not make it to campus. Like the tweet I read you a little bit ago. If teams are taking these guys in the 4th or 5th round, they're signing them. So those 2 guys will not make the campus. Best of luck to them. And best of luck to these 8 guys, Vols, who have been drafted so far. Now, will there be more tomorrow? It's possible, for sure. I mean, Radicek is a possibility. I think he's a significant draft risk based on the interview I read with him, where he talked about that the teams were just talking about his age, him being 23. We saw it with Dalton Connect in the draft and how it hurt him there. He said these teams were talking about him, kind of being old, but, a 23-year-old being old, but in terms of the draft and stuff. So, I mean, if he were to pass up a contract or an offer, he still does have some leverage now with his eligibility, his year eligibility. That he comes back next year at 24 years old, he's going to have a tough time. So I think if he gets drafted now, he takes it, and I don't blame him. And then I'd read that Tanner Wiggins, JUCO transfer coming in pitcher, throwing, I think he's up around 100. I've read that if he gets drafted, he's a pretty significant risk to go as well. Sanders Rux, how you doing? Doing good tonight. Hope you're doing well as well. Thanks for tuning in on here. Hope the rest of you guys are doing well as I keep saying well on here. But to me, I mean, I look at Tennessee, 8 none of the signees were surprises. I've been saying that the whole time. Let me rephrase that. The players, the current roster players that were drafted, there were no surprises that any of them were drafted. The 2 signees, honestly, there was no surprise there. The surprise to me was that there were not more than 2 of them. I could be wrong on this, but I really think at this point that these guys who are in Tennessee's signing class, who will be true freshmen this coming fall, some of them I think are already on campus. So if I look at that signing class, so according to perfectgame.com, Anson Siebert is ranked 35th overall. He was not drafted today. I'd read where he had a pretty high asking price. And that's kind of what you get into. Now, any of these higher ranked guys, if they have a lower asking price, that means they're probably going to the draft. I don't know what South is seeing. I don't know what I just lost track. The other guy was Snyder, Trey Snyder out of Missouri. I don't know what their asking prices were, but it was obviously in a range that the Cubs and the Mets felt comfortable taking them at that point. And just looking at the perfect game, Levi Clark, catcher out of Georgia. Now, some of these guys can play other positions too. I don't know that Clark catches. Looking at his scouting report on here, it does say catcher, first base, or right-handed pitcher. It says he's an athletic catcher of big power, had a huge 2023 summer, and he's 18 years old. So if he gets to campus, now what you have to keep in mind is we see each time is we don't know how long these guys stick around. If you go back through these signing classes, honestly, more than not end up leaving for one reason or another. So Clark can catch. He can play first. He's ranked the 4th ranked catcher nationally out of Marietta, Georgia. I know some of you guys in here last week said you knew the area well and said that's a hotbed for talent in it. I think that's huge. Huge getting him in here. Yeah, I agree with this, Sanders. Tennessee sports been rolling with the recruits and with the portal players for sure. Absolutely. And it feels like to me that I think what I like about it is you take, I'll go back to football, who they added through the portal and football. People get upset because you see all these guys hit the portal. They're your 4 or 5 stars and stuff. Tennessee doesn't get them. They may get some, but they're very thorough. There's an approach to it. Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Tony Vitello. I think Kim Caldwell's probably going to be the same way. I know Karen Weekly just picked up a transfer pitcher from South Carolina here recently. And I actually picked up another player she may be from Tennessee, but transferring from the University of Texas. So they have a system, and they're recruiting to that system. If a guy comes in and doesn't fit, they're not going to recruit them. But they're targeting the right players. Tony Vitello, I mean, he has rolled with the portal. Rick Barnes, I thought, did great with the portal. The only one that Rick Barnes missed that I know of was Cade Tyson, and I don't know that he missed. From what I understood was they were concerned that if Cade Tyson came, that Cam Carr may leave. Well, based on everything I'm reading about Cam Carr, and I've made a video on it, I talked about it on here last Monday. Cam Carr is going to be a stud in Knoxville. He's had some real high praise, especially going after going that Jason Tatum elite camp here recently. But Levi Clark in the boat here as of right now. He was ranked 36. South Tennessee ranked 38th out of Henderson, Nevada. Like I said, 4th round of the Cubs. He will not be making it to campus. Best of luck to him. Tegan Coons, right-handed pitcher out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I think he's in. I think he's in the fold at this point. I think with Siebert, Clark, Coons, all three of those guys, I believe if they would have went, they would have went today at least. I can't see them, not unless some team is sandbagging with their slots and they're going to try to draft one of these guys late and just over slot them. That's I don't know. I just can't see it. So I mean, you never say never. Never say never on it for sure with recruiting, and especially with the slot stuff. But Siebert, Clark, Coons, Arnold Abernathy. I actually was reading about him. He's ranked 61st. He's a shortstop. Ackworth, Georgia, says he plays at North Cobb High School. I was reading about he is actually the cousin of Micah Abernathy, who played some safety for Tennessee. I think it was under the Butch Jones era, actually. So has not been that long ago. So a blazer, an absolute blazer coming in speed-wise. Braden Krenzel, 81st, has not been drafted. Manuel Marin, I'm not sure. I've not watched to see. 6'1", 170 shortstop listed at Hialeah, Florida. I seen he's a draft risk. He was not drafted. Jackson Walker out of Loudon High School, Lenore City. Chris Newstrom out of Phoenix, Arizona. Any of these. Of course, Manny Ramirez's son, he was not drafted. I've seen people speculating on him. He's ranked 300th, which, last year Carson Rucker was ranked, I think, according to Perfect Game, in the 400s, and he still ended up getting drafted pretty high and signing with Detroit. So, sometimes the rankings really don't matter. And, that'll segue me in here to Laura Hubbard's comment here in just a minute. But, we'll see where it goes tomorrow with Tennessee's team. And I want to talk about how next year's team's shaping up now that we have a little bit more of a clear picture. I don't think it's crystal clear, but I think we have a pretty good idea who are making it to campus. Now, let me see. Laura said, weren't some of our 5 stars downgraded later to 4 after the fact, lowering rank of the recruiting? That's what it looked like to me, because after the re-rankings, their recruiting class dropped from 13th to 16th. And, of course, the George McIntyre drop was the big one that people were up in arms about. And basically what I seen, and I don't know all of it, obviously, but where he did not compete in the Elite 11 camp because of a hand injury, he got dropped. There were some other guys dropped as well. And, they had some move up, but I think that was the big one that caused that class to drop. So, we'll see. McIntyre I think Tennessee's still pretty happy with George McIntyre. You're not going to see him turn him loose or anything like that, for sure. But the rankings are what they are sometimes. We've seen that numerous times over the years. But, I don't know. Sometimes I think there's some bias in them. And, like an Elite 11 camp, I don't think because a guy doesn't compete, that should really be held against him. But I don't know. There's different criteria, I'm sure, for it. But, it was pretty interesting, to say the least. Yep, that's what I was just saying here. They were downgraded because they didn't attend the camp. That was basically what it boiled down to on it. Looking at tomorrow for the draft for Tennessee, what I'm looking at is I'm hoping to see some of these guys like Xander Seacrest, Cal Stark, I think there's a chance those guys get drafted tomorrow. I really do. Xander, especially the way he finished the season. Cal Stark. I mean, as we've talked about, Cal's not going to be drafted based on his bat. I mean, could he get better? Absolutely. I mean, he made progress from last year to this year. But as good of a catcher as he is, I think he's got a chance. I really do. I really do. Some teams will see that and they'll be able to work with that. Based on, everything else I'm looking at on the roster, I'm trying to think. Of course, Hunter Inslee said he was coming back, which really surprised me that he did before the draft, because I still maintain that I think if he weren't coming back, he would get drafted. I see Robin Villeneuve. I saw he transferred to Texas Tech. Matthew Dallas transferring to Wake Forest. Of course, Causey was picked. Saw Colby Backus play a little bit in Johnson City Thursday night, actually. Saw Colby Backus, Ariel Antigua, and Hunter Sloop all played. Sloop he threw hard. He had a little bit of a rough outing, especially at last outing before he got pulled. Ariel Antigua, I'm just telling you right now, anybody can say what they want. Somebody in here last week was trying to say Antigua didn't have the arm nor the range to play shortstop. You've not watched him play. I watched him play Thursday night in Johnson City. He plays for the Greenville Flyboys in the Appalachian League this summer. Dude's amazing at shortstop. Range is not a problem. Arm is not a problem for Ariel Antigua. And last I saw, he was hitting over 300 in the Appalachian League. It is a wooden bat league as well. Some pretty good competition. I don't think it's like as good as Cape Cod, but there's some pretty good competition up there. A guy that actually played where I coached last year. I was talking to him. He plays for Greenville. He was playing center field that night. I was talking to him before and after the game, and he said, yeah, there's some good competition for sure up there. But I don't know who wins the shortstop job. Let's go ahead and get into next year's team. So, like I said, the only ones, maybe some of your JUCO guys that are coming in. Wiggins seems to be the main one that's a risk if he gets picked. But if he makes the campus, man, that's going to be a big time pitcher coming. They have 6 total JUCO guys, pitchers, and those guys aren't brought in to sit for a couple years. They're brought in to make a difference. I really think the pitching staff could possibly be better next year. Possibly. Yeah, it's what Frank Anderson did with that staff this year was second to none. It was second to none. He did a phenomenal job because it was a flawed staff. I really thought it was, but they made it work. And, of course, that offense was big. Now, I've seen people with some of the portal pickups saying, well, this offense may be better. No, it's not. It's not going to be. That's no disrespect towards next year's offense. This 2024 offense was one of the best, if not the best, college baseball offense in history. Let's be realistic next year. There's no Christian Moores, no Blake Burks, no Billy Amick, Kavaris Tears, Dylan Drowlings. There'll be some guys have some good years. But that collection of talent they had this year on that offense, that was with Cal Stark at the bottom. Cal had some big hits. Make no mistake about it. That was with the DH struggling. That was with, Curley did a pretty good job. I expect him to take a big step next year. You're just not going to have, a top 6. It's not realistic to think you're going to have a top 6 like you just had this year, or top 7 when Curley was on. Curley, I thought, had a really good College World Series and hit the ball really well. So you're looking at it next year. Looking at next year's team. Catcher, Cannon Peebles. I'm looking for Cannon Peebles to take that step. Of course, there was a highly touted prospect, Stone Lawless. I think he'll be in there. Charlie Taylor, he'll be in there, be able to do his thing. If Levi Clark, who I said was 36th ranked overall in this class, who's not been picked through 10 rounds, I got to think he makes it to campus at this point. 6'2", 195, says he's an athletic catcher. if he stays at catcher, does he come in and compete here in the fall? I think there's a possibility of it. Now, like I said, with all these shortstops, with some of these guys, they're going to move positions. There's no doubt about it. But that's what you're looking like at catcher. That infield is the one I would love to be there for this fall camp. You're going to have returning Dean Curley, Ariel Antigua, some lesser known guys, Blake Grimmer, who redshirted this year. He came in as a shortstop. He's listed as 6'3", 202. He is playing in the North Woods League, which is up around Michigan. You've got him. You have a guy, Tony Vitello, talked about some we didn't see any. Alex Perry. How does he factor in? Could he? I don't know where he could possibly factor in. Then you bring in Gavin Keelan. You bring in Andrew Fisher. So there's 6 guys competing. You look at going back to the current roster for this past season, trying to see if there's somebody I'm forgetting here. Hunter High, he's a dude. Where'd I have him playing? He was playing. I don't have him on my list, but I think I saw somebody say he's playing in Appalachian League right now, playing some outfield. So he's a guy who could play some different positions, possibly. And then your signing class, of course, you got to factor in. Arnold Abernathy, ranked 61st, talked about his speed. Manuel Mann out of Hialeah, 88th. He was a guy, again, that I've been reading about is a draft risk or was. So there's another guy in the equation. Chris Newstrom, shortstop, listed out of Phoenix, Arizona, 118 overall. Looking down the list here, Robinson Martin out of Memphis. He's ranked 471. And then there's some other guys. Dane Morrow out of Louisville, Kentucky's listed as a shortstop. Jackson Jones out of Kansas, listed as a first baseman, 6'3", 215 here as well. Now you add in as well with Radicek from Niagara. If he makes it in, I'm telling you, it's going to be a knockdown drag out in that infield in the fall. It wouldn't surprise me if Keelan is the shortstop, but they have a lot of different ways they can go on it. Me personally, based on what I just have a hard time believing there's a better shortstop on this roster than Antigua. And that's nothing against Curley. That's nothing against any other shortstop on here. Ariel Antigua is a stud in the field at shortstop. I go back to Game 3 against Texas A&M in that College World Series. The 8th inning, that play does not get talked about enough where that ball was hitting the hole and he knocked it down. He made it fairly close, which really surprised me how close that one was. But the guy on second did not move, and he got stranded. If that ball gets through, because Dylan Dreiling, his arm is not his strength. There's possibility that run scores. That could have been a different ball game. He stopped that ball. They got out of that inning without that run scoring. That was a huge play in that baseball game. And like I said, it's nothing against Curley. Curley doesn't make that play, though. Antigua makes that play. Like I said, some of the plays he made Thursday night was just having to run in and get balls on the bounce, in the hole, up the middle. He can play it all. Ariel Antigua can do it all at shortstop. The big thing with him is going to be his bat. And here's the good thing. He's got a while. He's evident. The night I saw him, he didn't do anything. I think he was over the night with the bat. But overall, he'd been hitting over 300 in the Appalachian League. With fall coming around, of course, he was slated to be, from everything I heard, the starting shortstop, and then he got injured. So with the fall coming, and then, of course, first games will be normally late February. Keelan, I know he's probably coming in intending on winning the shortstop job. He better be good. If all things considered are even and equal, and it's best man wins it, if somebody legitimately beats Antigua out at short, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. Ariel Antigua, like I said, can't say enough good about how good he is at shortstop. Like I said, if anybody has seen him play, especially if they were at that game, same one I was at, yeah, he made some plays. But that infield, man, it's going to be a knockdown drag out. It really is, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. Outfield, Inslee center, we know that one. I really expect Reese Chapman to take one of those two outfield spots, and then from there, who knows? You got Colby Backus is back. Colby Backus, if he can translate his midweek hitting to the weekend, he's got the talent. It's just translating it there. Andrew Fisher, the Ole Miss transfer, could possibly be there as well. Like I said, Hunter High is a guy I saw. He's been playing some outfield. Cole Eaton is a guy. He was pretty highly thought of last year. And then we'll pull that class up from last year. Of course, he was not on the active roster as he redshirted this year, but he was rated last year as the number 121st ranked player out of Nebraska. 6'1", 185 outfielder, right-handed. And I think he is already playing, or I know he's already playing in the California League. And I heard he was doing some pretty good things there as well. Braden Sharp is a guy out of the Woodlands, Texas last year. He's listed as a pitcher outfielder. I don't know, because I've not seen much on him. I don't know if he's still either one or if they've kind of started focusing on one position or not. So, that is one that remains to be seen. Yes, Tim, totally agree with you on this. Everything I think we heard was that, Antigua was hitting well before that injury, and then he just couldn't get it going. No, he is not on the list of draft prospects, but that doesn't mean that he won't get drafted. I think he is playing in it's some kind of an MLB draft summer league, like to get your stock up. And from what I've seen, his stock has went. It is possible he makes it to campus. I'm saying if he gets drafted, I don't think he does. I don't think he makes it to campus. So, so we'll see how. Some of the ranks too. I don't think Aaron Combs was listed on. I don't remember if it was MLB.com or Baseball America or which one did not have him listed, and he was today 8th round. Those rankings too. You would probably be surprised if you analyzed all the picks today, guys who were not in the top 500, who have been drafted in the top 10 rounds. And it's really a crapshoot with that slot money, because you can't just go out and pick, every guy you want to pick out of the high school or college ranks because of that slot money. And, if you go over slot, then at that point, that means you're going to have to basically take a dude out of eligibility who you can sign under slot, if that makes any sense. It's a whole process with it. But there is a strategy to it. I think Radicek has a possibility, still a probability of getting drafted. I really do. Let's say I was looking at that class, that 23 class, trying to see who else. There's some guys, Jeremy Comer, Holden Bronner, listed as outfielders. I've not seen Comer. Comer's playing in the Northwoods Summer League. Did I see Bronner? I swear I think I saw him. Oh, he's playing in the Coastal Plains League, which is kind of in the Carolinas, playing for the Boone Bigfoots right now. So do some of these guys possibly factor in as well? It's kind of be interested to see him. Want to see if there's any guys from 22. I think Stanwich was one that left. Of course, there's Reese Chapman. Some of these guys have already left, obviously. Yeah, not many of them left. This is what's funny. You look at these ranks. AJ Russell is ranked 500th. And when they 500th on their rankings on here, they just put them all at 500. So he was not even a top 500 prospect. And, before his injury, he was the ace of this staff. last year. So the outfield a little bit less. What guys could possibly, and Radachik, if he makes it to campus, he's a guy who can play the outfield as well. So I think the outfield there is some unknown there. There is definitely David Polk too, Ty Southasine, and Trey Snyder, both top 100 guys, both shortstops listed. They were drafted 4th and 5th rounds today, so they will not make it to campus. Other than that, I think we're good. I mean, you never say never, but I think these highly ranked guys in this class, the fact that they were not drafted today, I think that's a good sign that the rest of them will be made to campus. So there's going to be an influx of talent coming this summer in Knoxville to go along with what's already there. This team's going to be loaded next year. Now, I don't know if they have the top end talent that this year's team had, but we'll see over time as Moore and Burke and these guys, of course, weren't. I mean, they were pretty good as freshmen, though, for sure. So we'll see where it goes from there. And then the pitching staff next year, I mean, you lost your whole rotation. You're losing Aaron Combs. Let's see, Causey's gone. Of course, Stamos out of eligibility. Beam drafted 3rd round today. Let's see. What else. Who am I forget? Oh, Xander, of course, eligibility. Cannell out of eligibility. So we got a lot of guys coming back. Let's see, Ryan Davis for $5. Eric the Niagara kid's not even on the prospect list. Plus, Nsimo go 8th. Overall, the rest of the class will make it to campus. I still wouldn't, just because he's not on the prospect list, I wouldn't say that he's not going to be drafted. He may not, all right? He may not because of his age and stuff, but there are plenty. Like I said, if you look at that top 10 rounds today, there will be plenty of guys drafted today who were not on the top 500 prospects. I promise you that. So until they get to the 20th round tomorrow, and you may even see a guy take an undrafted free agent contract. Tennessee had a guy, a couple years ago who was transferring from, I think it was Tennessee Tech as a catcher. He wasn't drafted, but then he signed an undrafted free agent deal. So it's you never say never until it's all said and done. But I think if Radachik does not get drafted, I think he makes it to campus for sure. Yeah, I think it's a good, like I said, 2 shortstops were picked today. I think that's a good sign for the rest of the class making it in. And that's big time. You're going to add some pitchers who can help immediately next year. I do expect Nate Snead to go to the rotation. I just, let's see, Snead, Liam Doyle, the Ole Miss transfer, I expect he'll be in the rotation. So then who's going to get that 3rd spot? Is it Dylan Loy? Is it going to be one of these JUCO guys? Could it be one of these freshmen coming in? We'll see on that. But then you're adding, of course, you got Mark Phillips back. You have, let me go back through the rotation. Guys I know for sure return. Braden Sharp, I talked about him. He was a freshman this year, outfielder, left-handed pitcher. Marcus Phillips, I expect big things from him. Luke Payne was a freshman. Of course, Dylan Loy, Andrew Banky will be back. A.J. Russell at some point. I'm not sure how soon we can expect out of him. Austin Hundley's back. Brady Robertson is back. I mentioned Banky. Oh, I forgot about Dalton Bargo for the outfield or the infield. There's another guy as well. I'm not sure how I forgot. I totally overlooked him, but that's a guy who'll be back, who will factor in somewhere, I think. I expect him to take a big jump next year. J.J. Garcia, I said he was playing in the Coastal Plains League. He's a guy who could make a jump next year as well. I mean, he come in and pitched that inning against Evansville in game 2, and he looked pretty good in that situation. He enabled them that opportunity to make it interesting for sure. And then, of course, you have some of these guys who were not on the active roster this year as well. I mean, I talked about Hunter Sloop. He was ranked 2 years ago, 75th. Like I said, I saw him throw the other night, and I didn't think he had his best stuff. But, the guys I was talking to down there, they were pretty complimentary. Guys that played with him said, yeah, he's got some good stuff. Dane Bjorn is another guy who's playing for Elizabeth, and Ashton Slack as another guy who's still with the team playing for the Bristol State Liners. Bryson Thacker is a guy playing for Greenville. Apparently, from what I was told the other night, he tore, I don't know if it's his UCL or something, so he's going to be out for a bit. Let's see. Braden May is another guy playing for the Forest City Owls. And then, of course, you got Tanner Franklin coming in from Kennesaw State, who will factor in the bullpen. And then you got like 6 JUCO guys coming in. There's going to be a lot of talent in Knoxville. There's going to be a lot of talent on that pitching staff. And like I said, those let's see. Oh, I just saw it. That is big time news. Somebody just posted here and I looked it up. Taylor Made, thank you for, Tegan Coons. This is a big one. This is one that I thought that he was going to be gone. No, he did not get drafted first 10 rounds. My guess is his price to sign was very high. He did. Go Vols 24/7 has an article says that he is indeed foregoing the rest of the draft, and he is reporting to Knoxville on here. So that's big time. This is a big time guy right here that's coming to campus. Trying to see if there's any comparisons. Says he's a wiry, lean, and twitchy athlete with a ton of ceiling. So his actual scouting report on perfectgame.com. Let me pull that up here real quick. Slender, projectable build up to 94 at the Perfect Game National. The All-American Classic with more to come. Also has a power curveball with nearly 3,000 RPM spin rates. So he is 19 years of age. So he's coming to campus. If he's kind of where we think he can be, it says he pitcher / outfielder / shortstop. He's being brought in to pitch, though. Right-handed pitcher. If he's what his ranking stuff suggests, I think 2 years and out is probably it. What's the timeline on Russell? Actually, so to go, that's still a good question, though. He had the surgery on June 11th. From what I read, he could pick a baseball up in 4 months. Pick one up. I don't think he can necessarily throw. From what I understand, he could throw in 8 months. So that would put him around, the 1st of February. So that'll be pretty close. Of course, the team will report back quicker than that. So if he's throwing and he's on that program, I think could he throw? I don't know when he would be able to actually pitch. I'm saying he might be able to throw some innings maybe around the first of SEC play. This is me kind of, I'm trying to think when the guys I saw go through the rehab last year were taken. Yes, good question. The surgery was successful. It actually come out better than they thought. I know they did UCL surgery on it, and normally that timeline, is pretty close to a year on it. I got Ryan Davis for 5 again. Tell me the Niagara kid's not even on the list. All right, thank you. Thank you. Yes, he's not on the list. Okay, so he may make it to campus. I would say the rest of the roster does make it to campus. The guys who were not drafted, out of the 10 guys drafted today, none of them will make it to campus. None of them will come back to campus. That's current players and the 2 high school guys. So the 8 guys drafted today, they will go pro. The two guys, the high school guys drafted today, they will go pro as well. But thank you, Ryan, for the generosity. Definitely appreciate that. And we'll see on the Niagara guy. We'll see. Like I said, just because a guy's not on the rankings does not mean they're not going to get drafted. Like I said, I promise you, if you look through some of these guys the Braves drafted today were not in the top 500 prospects. They were not ranked. I can promise you that. Quentin Everhart. Where am I missing this dude at? Because I don't have JUCO right. The JUCO stuff is hard to find. And I'm telling you. This thing keeps loading different every time I pull it up, too. Let me look on that one just a minute, because I'm thinking, is he 25? No. They've got a strong class for 25 already as well. Not 20. I don't see him listed on here, so I don't know much about this dude. Hey, I think Russell will be back at some point. I just don't know. With him throwing the 1st of February, that leads me to believe probably around April is when you'll start seeing him throw some innings, and then hopefully middle SEC playing later. But I'll be curious, though, to see, because if you guys remember 2022, Blade Tidwell was going to be the Friday night guy. He was hurt out of the gates. Chase Burns took it. Of course, Burns, Chase Dolander went Saturday, Drew Beam Sunday. And then they come up the end and inserted Tidwell back in. I really didn't think he was ready. I would be curious to see how they go with that for sure. But this team, the strength coach. Never mind. I'm sorry. I always see Coach Q on there. That's right. The strength coach. That's him. Yeah. Some of these dudes, man, they get in that strength program. Yeah, it's going to be you just look at some of these freshmen. You think of a Dean Curley. What's a year going to make for him? What's an Ariel Antigua going to be like in a year? Just all these guys. Yeah. That was a total brain fade on my part. But there's going to be some studs on this campus next year for sure. But adding those JUCO guys, numerous guys can throw mid to high 90s. You've got some guys who are more of your control. I know Aaron Combs has got a brother who's committed out of JUCO coming in. All these guys will play different roles. And, of course, you just added Arvidsson this past weekend from A&M. High strikeout guy. I don't know if he's more of a starter or not. The most he threw the whole year was 5 1/3 innings. So most of his outings were shorter than that. So could it be one of those where you go a guy for 4 or 5 innings and then go to him for? So they're going to have a ton of options this year. Like I said, my guess is Snead starts, Liam Doyle starts, and then that third one's going to be up in the air. I think could one of these freshmen be it? Could one of the JUCO guys be it? Just somebody unexpectedly come up and take that roster spot or that opening? Could it be Dylan Loy? Tony Vitello, man, what he's got going down there, it's not rebuild. It is reload, and they are going to be loaded pitching wise next year. And the offense is going to be pretty good too. Pretty good. We're about 50 minutes in on here. Had a pretty good little crowd in here tonight. Yeah. And like I said, some of the pitching, I've not even really factored AJ Russell in a whole lot yet, but if he gets back to full speed, full strength, they won't have the offense that they had this past season, but that pitching has a chance to be better. So good times ahead. Good times ahead for this staff for sure. Let's get into some football. So let's media days tomorrow. I'm thinking Heupel is afternoon. So Heupel, Omari Thomas, Cooper Mays, Keenan Pili will be going tomorrow. So that I'm curious to see what they talk about tomorrow. I don't know what to talk about, to be honest with you. That's let's see here. Let me hit Bob Franklin. Bob, the hype man for the Outlaw. We need to get something to bring the Outlaw out. The Outlaw's been in hiding for a bit. But yeah, better late than not at all. Dorothy, go Big Orange. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you. Appreciate Ryan Davis. Appreciate y'all's generosity. Thank you guys so much for that. Sandras, I will circle back to you here just a few minutes on that. That's an excellent question. She says, how do you think Kim's doing with the women's basketball team in recruiting? I will circle back to that one right after I hit a little bit of football here. So definitely I'll use that to segue into it here just a little bit. But curious to see what they talk about tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be the, I don't think there'll be anything earth-shattering tomorrow. I mean, they did release the new roster today, as a matter of fact. Not sure if any of you guys saw it or not. There were some dudes took some massive weight gains on it. I want to pull up. I've got a couple sub sites. I want to cheat a little bit off of VolQuest. Brent Hubbs had an article on it earlier today. And I'm not going to read from what he's put, but he did put on there the guys who took the big weight changes. This was interesting to me. So the ones that stood out to me the biggest, Trevor Duncan was an offensive lineman, 270 last year. He's up to 300, 30-pound difference. Caleb Herring, he'll be a defensive end. He's now at 249. He's up from 226 last year. Devin Hobbs up to 300. Nico's up 9 pounds to 215. If this guy factors in, I've said for a few years, Tennessee needs that goal line running back on their team. Khalifa Keith is that guy. Now, I don't know if for nothing else, if you need that yard. So Khalifa Keith is in at 239. He's up from 230 from last year. And Brew McCoy's up 10 pounds to 230. Chaz Nimrod is up. I thought this one was wild. Chaz Nimrod, of course, wide receiver, is up to 220, up from 196 last year. That is a couple big boys at wide receiver. Omar Norman Lott up to 315. One thing that stood out was Emmanuel Okoye switched from tight end to defensive end. I've seen that talked about a little bit. So he's up to 243. They've talked about his athleticism, how he's kind of, I guess, more or less new to the game, a lot of inexperience, but they said a lot of talent. Dylan Sampson's up to 201 from 190. Jeremiah Thielander up to 238. I like that for a linebacker. I like that size. Sham Umarov up to 330. Tyree Weathersby up to 272. So they're these guys are putting some weight. I mean, Dominic Bailey 292. John Campbell up to 330. Ethan Davis 246. These are some of your bigger weight gains. Of course, Okoye moved to defensive line. Jeremias Hurd come in, is an offensive line. Of course, he was says by, I guess it was on 3, he was ranked as a 4-star defensive lineman, but he will start on the offensive line, actually. I am not sure on that one, actually, if Xander Secret's brothers committed to Tennessee or not. I don't know much about that one. Let me look through a couple rankings here on Perfect Game to see, because I don't see – my good, that's like for 2027. So I went to there to look. Tennessee has 2 commitments. Max Hemingway out of Washington, Sebastian Wilson out of Chicago. They're ranked 7th and 12th overall. That's for 2027 baseball. So if that holds up, you got to think it's probably a slim chance of those guys make the campus. for 2026, I mean, you've got, I don't see Secret's brother on here. And again, I don't know much about him. So it's 2025. They have numerous guys here. I would be surprised if they make it to campus next year. I don't see him listed for 25. Like I say, I know Aaron Combs' brother is committed for right now. So he will be on campus this year. That updated roster, and then I don't know, man. I'm excited about this football team this year. I really am. I look at the positions. I go through the positions. Obviously injuries are going to be a part of it at some point. You just hope it's not the big one. But I think the wide receiving core, I'm just going through it. With Brew back, you add, of course, Chris Brazzell, they're excited about. The Dante Thornton, who was starting to come along at the end of the year before he got hurt last year. Of course, a guy who does not get mentioned, who was definitely Mr. Consistency last year, Squirrel White. I mean, Squirrel's back. You're adding Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley. And then what step does your guys like Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod take? I mean, those guys were playing some last year. You got to think they're going to take that step this year as well. The tight ends, I mean, especially you're adding Holden Stage, you're adding a tight end from Alabama. You've got Ethan Davis, and you have the freshman coming in, which I think those will redshirt, but still yet. Tight end should be good. Your main core offensive line, that should be a good offensive line this year. The biggest thing's going to be depth, because we saw the bowl game. I mean, that was as makeshift of an offensive line as I've ever seen. And, Nico didn't have a lot of time at times, but he still made do with it. That's going to be the key. How good's Nico going to be? That's where it's all going to start at. Why was Tennessee so good 2 years ago? It was Hendon Hooker. I mean, let's face it. It was Hendon Hooker, because the defense it had its moments, but Hendon Hooker, Cedric Tillman went down. Jalen Hyatt stepped up and became a man. Jalen Hyatt stepped up and won the Biletnikoff Award. The reason, I mean, I said it last year. If 9 wins is a down year, I'll take it. But I don't want too many down years. We've seen enough of those with Joe Milton. I still have questions why Nico was not given a chance over Joe Milton, but it is what it is at this point. It's it's no use beating a dead horse over it. It's Nico's show. We saw enough out of Nico in the bowl game. Was he perfect? No. There were some flaws. He knew going into offseason, it was his job. He's put on the weight. He's bigger than he was. He's got I don't know if it was part of his understanding of the offense or not. I don't know. They like Joe Milton pretty well for whatever reason, but it's Nico's time. What we need, it's, you always want your best players to stick around. We really need Nico to be 2 years and done after this year, next year, and to be like a top 10 pick. We really need that, because how long has it been? I mean, James Pierce is going to be, if everything holds as is, a top 10 pick after this coming season. After next year, though, how long since a quarterback's been picked high for Tennessee? Going back to what, Peyton Manning? So Tennessee, really, especially with them kind of on this quarterback bender they're on. They got Jake Merklinger, who I think people are really underestimating in this grand scheme. You got George McIntyre come in. And then if you're able to get Faison Brandon coming up here to 1st of August, which they have a good shot at him. That's the signs of forming a quarterback factory down there. Let's see. Let me hit this baseball. This is a good question here. Do you have to go to college in MLB baseball? No, you do not. You can. So it works a couple ways. That's an excellent question. All the drafts are different. Of course, college football, you have to be 3 years. NBA, you have to go 1 year, which I think is pointless. I think it should either be, I wish they would do NBA like they do college baseball. So if you get drafted out of high school and you sign, you can go ahead and go to the major. You'll get put in the minors, of course. But if you come to campus, you'll be there, odds are 2 to 3 years. depending on your age. And you're starting to see more of these 2 years because guys are coming to campus 19 years of age. And then when if you're turning, I think it's 21 before the draft, you can go pro. So Dylan Dreiling this year, we saw it Blade Tidwell a couple years ago. Dean Curley is going to be like that next year. And there's some guys in this current signing class who are going to make the campus they're 19 years of age now. So in a couple of years, they'll be eligible to go to the draft then. So you have to go at least 2 to 3 years if you don't go out of high school with it. So it's excellent question. And again, the MLB draft is just a different animal. They're so like I've talked about the slot picks, guys, especially guys who get drafted in the top 10 rounds, they're gone. They are gone. Teams, it's like I had the tweet earlier, the guy from D1 Baseball that talked about it. If you get drafted in the top 10, you're not going. You're not coming back to school. Teams are not using those picks just to be wasted because that's your valuable picks right there. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. Nico goes high in 2 years. That quarterback room, you're going to see it. You've already saw it with Hendon Hooker. I think Hooker went lower than he should have in the draft. Of course, he had the knee injury, which he would have went a lot higher, I think, if not for that knee injury. I mean, Milton did get drafted last year. I thought that was a testament to him just getting him drafted. And if Nico goes high in 2 years, if everything goes according to plan, then these quarterbacks are going to be lining up wanting to get in the fold. And I think it says a lot about Brandon if he's wanting to commit here in August, knowing Merklinger, knowing McIntyre coming. I like that because tells me it's guys that are not afraid of competition. They're going to come in and compete. But you look at my one possible concern I have on offense, and it's not the talent, it's the depth. It's running back. I look for Dylan Sampson to have a big year, and I'm curious to see how the running back rotations are with the new running back coach. I don't expect it to be like Jerry Max was. I thought he rotated a little bit too much, and frankly, I thought Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson should have gotten more carries than they did. Jabari Small's a decent running back, but I didn't think he was as good as the other two. I think Dylan Sampson's going to have a huge year this year. If Cam Seldon's healthy, I'm very high on Cam Seldon. They talk a lot about Peyton Lewis, that they're high on him coming in, freshman out of Virginia. And then, Deshaun Bishop, he looked pretty good in the orange and white game. And then I think Khalifa Keith, man, a guy that big, 239, you could do some things with him, especially in short yardage situations, having a guy like that that can do something. If Tennessee can avoid injuries at running back, they'll be fine. Maybe the depth's better than I think, but they, with a couple guys hurt right now, going into summer with fall practice right around the corner, it's just important to keep that position as healthy as possible. And then the defense, the line, this should be one of the best lines Tennessee's had in years. One defensive line wise, I would go back to early 2000s. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe there's some lines I'm forgetting, but I cannot remember when they've had this much depth and this much talent on a line. Yeah, they've had some good lines, some good linemen over the years who've gotten drafted and stuff. I'm obviously not forgetting Derek Barnett and those guys, but I don't know if they had the depth that this current line does. And, with James Pierce, does he end up better than Derek Barnett? I think it's a valid question. Definitely dry. Barnett was a first-round pick playing with, last I saw, the Texans. Barnett was awesome when he was there. But I think as far as the overall depth, it was decent when he was there, when Barnett was. But what Rodney Garner and that staff has built on that defensive line, there's quality depth, 2 and 3 deep on there. The linebackers, I think it's big getting Keenan Pili back. I think he's going to be big in the middle. Who steps up beside of him? It seems like some of these guys are taking the steps, but we've heard that before. And then we get in the game, and it's kind of the same old, can't defend a slot or the slant, can't defend out space. So that question's going to be there until it's actually stopped. I think we've been burned by it enough, and we've seen it enough. I mean, people were freaking out about Elijah Herring leaving after the year. I mean, it'd been nice to have kept him, but I mean, the guy had his moments, but the guy also he had his moments that were not too good either. I think he would have gotten better um, had he stayed, but he wasn't guaranteed a starting spot either, especially with Arian Carter coming back, with some of these other guys taking the steps that they've taken as well. But I think there's a little bit of a question mark on the linebackers to a point. I think Pili, based on what we saw last year against Virginia, and it was a little sample size, I think he'll be good. But I guess you could really say that the back two-thirds of the defense, there's going to be questions on the defensive backs until they do it. There's just going to be your best ones. Of course, they lost Kamal Haddon early, so they had other guys to play. Jalen McCullough, I mean, you lose him. He was solid at safety last year. I still don't think any of the other guys that transferred are replaceable, though, or irreplaceable. I think they're very replaceable. Does some of this young talent that they recruited last year and this year step up? And they added guys to the portal as well. I think the secondary has to be better. If not, we've got to look at two guys on this. We've got to look at Willie Martinez, and we have to look at Tim Banks, because Tim Banks is the safeties coach. I think Turrentine will be good at safety. Who's opposite of him? Some of that talent they've added. I mean, some of the talent they've added at corner and linebacker, like Edwin Spillman at linebacker. For you guys that watched the Orange and White game, probably most of you did. From what I saw in that, I know it's just Orange and White game, I don't know how you're keeping that guy off the field. He was an absolute machine, and I know Coach Inge talked about Edwin Spillman wanting to hit people's not an issue. He has to dial him back, if anything. He said, I'm excited about Spillman. I mean, Abu Carter, and a guy I've seen mentioned too, it may factor in at safeties, Christian Charles was hurt last year. He played a lot a couple years ago, and he's apparently playing safety now. I just think both those units at the back end have to be better this year. I really do. I think this is, in my opinion, the NC State game is huge. I think it is too. Then Oklahoma. Those are the big two, because that's the first two out of the game. I mean, NC State, if this team's what I think it'll be, I think they'll handle NC State. I think they'll handle them. NC State will be good, but I think they'll handle them pretty well. I really do. If any of you guys have played the new NCAA football today, chime in on here. Tell me what you think about it, because I've not played one of the NCAAs since maybe, I can't remember if it was 13 or 14. Used to play that a lot. I actually used to do some online dynasties, had a lot of fun with that. But I've not played the new. I've seen a little bit of it, but not much. So if any of you played it today, chime in, tell me what you think about it. How's it compare with the old NCAAs as well? What do you think of Tennessee's roster on the current game, since they use actual players now? You don't have to go and download them. I know there was a couple streams today, guys playing the game, a couple different YouTube channels. So if any of you watched that, see what you saw on that as well, what you noticed on the rosters, the gameplay, how it played, or anything like that as well. NC State's big. I think Tennessee gets that one, but Oklahoma, man, that first game at Oklahoma on the road, and we know Tennessee's road woes over the years. Really their most complete, best game that we've seen under Heupel on the road, and I may be wrong on this, was LSU, when they just thumped LSU. And other than that, I mean, I was there for that South Carolina debacle, and that was awful. That was absolutely awful to watch. It was shocking. Couldn't believe it was happening. And then, last year at Florida was bad. That was awful. Missouri was bad, even though I really think Missouri was the better team than Tennessee last year. I mean, Alabama first half was good. Second half was awful. What happens to this team on the road? That's what I would like to figure out. What happens to this team when they go on the road? If it happens once or twice, it's one thing. But at this point, I don't think it's a coincidence other than going to Kentucky and Vanderbilt, which, normally when you go play your son, you normally can take care of your son pretty well. And, Daddy Vols normally takes care of their sons up in Kentucky and down in Nashville pretty well. There you go, Bob. Sitting in it 2 years. I don't actually have a system anymore. I'll have to decide if I want to invest in it at some point. I don't know if I will or not. I don't even know how much the systems cost or any of that anymore. It's how out of date. And I used to be pretty hardcore into playing NCAA, FIFA, and WWE. That was my main three. I normally played a lot. But I think best case this year is Tennessee football team goes 11-1 regular season. I just can't see them going down and beating Georgia. I have to see it to believe it. I really do. There's a couple games. I mean, Oklahoma is a game they could lose for sure. And then, what's Arkansas? It's a road game. Is it a track game? Florida, I mean, I want to see Tennessee take care of business against Florida this year. I don't want to see it coming down to last play or anything like that. I want to see for once, because Tennessee has a lot more talent than Florida. I want to see Tennessee for once come in and play balls to the wall, not whatever that game plan was last year. They get in these instances where they go conservative against Florida. Come out and throw the kitchen sink at Florida and blow them out of Neyland Stadium on October 12th. There's absolutely no reason to let Napier. There's absolutely no reason to let Billy Napier come in and give you a game in Knoxville this year. There's no reason for it. Now, if they win by 1 point, I'll be happy. Don't get me wrong. Well, win is a win against Florida, as we've seen over the years. At some point in time, while we have the talent advantage over Florida, we've got to prove it to them. And Florida has talent, don't get me wrong. Their quarterback, no. They're not. So, yeah, David Polk, I'm right there with you, man. I actually had a game been playing on my computer some. It's just a little game, and I actually deleted it today because I've been spending a little bit more time on it than I wanted lately. So, it's I don't mind to play games, but I really don't have the time for them. To get things done, I should on it. Last thing on football, and then I know some of you have talked to Lady Vols. I said I'll come back around to that one, then I'll wrap up here in just a few minutes. But recruiting, Tennessee got another big commitment this past weekend. Travis Smith, junior wide receiver out of Georgia. I absolutely love that commitment. Depending on what you look at, 6'4", 6'3", around 200. They said he's got the speed. He's got the build to play inside, outside. I did the video on his when he had committed, talking about him and just showing the highlights of it. The guy could go across the middle. He could go up and get it over guys. I love it, man. I love what he brings to the table. According to On3, so that put Tennessee up to 13th. Excuse me, I think some of you had said that earlier. Let me see what. Let me look over here on 24/7. They're pretty similar. The last I had looked. Of course, all these composites and stuff are a little bit confusing on it. 13th nationally, 6th in the SEC right now. Of course, McIntyre is still the top recruit in the class. You take like a guy. Like I look at McIntyre, he's a consensus 4-star across On3, 24/7, ESPN, and Rivals. He's rated highest by Rivals at number 39. Douglas Utu out of Nevada. He's ranked 280 by On3, 101st by 24/7, 13th overall by ESPN, 8th overall by Rivals. Marion Dye, 36th, 110. ESPN they've got him 4-star, but they don't have a national ranking on him. In Rivals, 103. Travis Smith, On3's got him the highest at 59th, and then 149, 211, 142nd, respectively. Going back down, I mean, you've got Ethan Utley, consensus 4. Jaden Lofton out of New Jersey, consensus 4. Rodarius Jackson wide receiver out of Memphis. Consensus for Nick Moore is a 4-star on 3, 24/7 ESPN, but a 3-star on Rivals. Jack Van, is it Dorsler? 3-star on 3, but a 4-star on 24/7 ESPN and Rivals. Ogamura, 3-star consensus. Sidney Walton, let's see if there's anybody. Justin Baker is a 3-star on 3 of them, but a 4-star on Rivals. Trey Petit is listed as a 4-star on Rivals. Charles House is a 4-star on 3. And then the rest of the guys are consensus 3 stars. So, where does Tennessee go from here with recruiting? Your wide receivers, you're pretty much set at this point. Travis Smith is in the fold. Radarius Jackson, that's 2 top 100 guys according to on 3. And then the third one was Joakim Dotson out of Memphis. I think he's playing in Chattanooga now at Baylor School, actually. So Tennessee's pretty much set at wide receiver for this class. Coming up next, what happens? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Christian Gass is July 20th coming up. So that will be this weekend. From everything I've seen up to this point, now it's never over till it's over. The way I'm reading it, Tennessee's going to beat Georgia out for him. Like I said, it could change, but from what I've seen, Tennessee has the momentum there. Shady Hayward announces on July 27th, which is his birthday. Everything I've read there is Tennessee's in good shape to get his commitment. Obviously, the big one's David Sanders. Now, I did see where one of Ohio State's mods on through a mock class today and included David Sanders, but I would bet you if one of Tennessee's mods on the sites did a mock class, they would have David Sanders in it too. I think both sides feel good about it. From what I've seen, Ohio State's mods feel good. I've seen Austin Price and others on Tennessee sites say they like where Tennessee's at as well. I've seen it on 24/7. Ryan Callahan said that basically, none of them have said he's coming to Tennessee, but they've said they like where they're at. So that's going to be the big one. That is the big one where people will be really happy with this class, or Tennessee could get everybody else thereafter. But if they lose out on David Sanders, people are going to be irate over it. That's just the way it's going to be, fair or not. And then, do they add a Juan Gaston? Do they add a Josh Petty? They're in on those guys. Offensive linemen ranked pretty high. I've seen if all those guys wanted it when Tennessee take them on, you don't turn offensive linemen down. Not that good. You don't turn that type of quality down. Now, I'm not saying the people saying it are wrong. I just don't see how you turn that quality of offensive lineman down if they all want it in, which probably is a moot point anyway. But David Sanders is the big one. And then, of course, Onis Cannonbany is cornerback out of Columbia. What I've seen, they're in pretty good shape. And I've also read that Jaden Perlotti, linebacker committed to Georgia, that they have a really good shot to flip him as well. So I think this will be, I don't know if it'll reach top 10 or not. Like it's the rankings, sometimes they're in it. Players all across the country, you can see this one's better. I don't really know how they compare them, to be honest with you. And, to me, the ranking system should be, I don't think you should look at necessarily in game. I'm looking at rankings as where will these guys be next year when they come to campus? Let's say you envision a dude 4 to 5 years down the line being top notch, but it's going to take him a few years to develop. I don't think he's a 5-star. To me, a 5-star should be stepping on the campus, making a difference from day one, or capable of it. Let's put it that way. If a 5-star comes in behind a top-notch quarterback, they're not going to come in and play over them. The odds are on that. Or if somebody's in that position ahead of most positions, though, other than quarterback, a guy can come in and play immediately. To me, if you're going to rank a guy a 5-star, they should be able to come in and be a day one contributor on the team. Or, in the case of a quarterback, capable of it. Maybe they're I remember USC used to when they were just stacking quarterbacks one after another, kind of like Tennessee starting to do now, especially if they get Brandon in the fold later this month. A 4-star, I think it's a guy maybe a couple years and he's ready to commit, and then 3 and down. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong on it. But I think that's a lot of times you see these guys rank 5 stars and then you don't hear anything with them. I mean, you just had Bradley who transferred out this past week, go to junior college. I mean, some sites had him a 5-star at one point. Guy can't even get on the field at Tennessee. Tells me he wasn't a 4 nor a 5-star if he's not ready to do something in year 2. Now, it's not saying that they should be the best player in the nation or anything like that year 1, year 2, but a vital contributor. I think that's how it should be. I don't see a guy who, like I said, 3-4 years down the line, I think this dude's going to be the man, but it's going to take some developing. He's not a 5-star, in my opinion. And maybe that's what they do sometimes with the rankings, because we've seen numerous guys, 2 stars, 3 stars come up and get drafted pretty high. Well, he was just a 2 or a 3 in college. But Tennessee's doing well in recruiting. I think they're doing well. I think they're hitting. A lot of it's going to depend on David Sanders. That's going to be the big one, August 17th. What else can you say on that one? That is huge for Tennessee, and I think it's them or Ohio State, and we'll see where it goes from. I'm confident it'll be Tennessee, but with recruiting, that's why I say I think a lot. I had somebody on a comment when they blasted me on it because you're saying a lot of I think. That's recruiting. Recruiting is I think. Until they sign on the dotted line, until they're on campus, it's not I know. It is I think up to that point. It says we'll circle back. Lady Vols, let me go back up in here and segue into it. Let me go back up and find this comment here. Sandra said, how do you think Kim's doing with the women's basketball team with recruiting? Well, you got the Paldo twins in the fold. 2 top 50 recruits. 13 and 49, I think it was. Both of them are quick. Some of their film, I saw some of it, man, they are lightning quick. And then I saw where Nyla Brooks, who's top 20, who was committed to Tennessee under Kelly Harper, she reopened her commitment. She's going to be visiting in October as well. So other than that, I'm trying to find some of the women's basketball blog has some pretty good info on it, but I'm trying to see. I'll tell you, man, there is not enough sites for women's basketball, college, definitely recruiting wise on here. Some of them list the recruits, or they may have, rank a top 50 or something, but just overall. Let me look on women's basketball. I was trying to look on Twitter a little bit earlier for some stuff as well, but I know let's see, it looks like after this coming season, so Tennessee's going to lose 6 players. Jasmine Powell, Destiny Wells, Jewel Spear, Tess Darby. Wait, that was 23-24. I'm sorry, because there's Rakia Jackson. Looks to me like they could lose up to 8 players. Wells, Samara Spencer. Is she a senior? Okay, Jewel Spear, Kaya Wynn, Tess Darby, Sarah Puckett. Iadell, the grad transfer from Pitt, Hollingshed. So that is 8. And then, of course, you have Ruby Whitehorn, Avery Strickland, Lazaria Spearman, Talisha Cooper, Alyssa Latham, Kanaya Boyd. Oh, those should be back. So you've got the Paldo twins coming in for 25-26. And then, so they're going to have to add more. Nyla Brooks, there's opportunity. They're the biggest thing to me for Kim Caldwell. If you watch some of the videos this week of them getting it, they're running. I thought she was pretty prom pretty composed, but I know there was a part at the end where she told him that was not acceptable, and then talked about it that I guess they did it again into practice. They were pretty happy with how it went. But the biggest thing for Kim Caldwell is you got the Paldo twins. And I saw people saying, well, are they going to cause a problem with the NIL? They were up front that they have deals with Puma now. So they already have their deals in place. So if you're entering into their recruitment, you know the deal. Why is it a big deal? Why is it a big deal that the Paldo twins already have a deal beforehand? I don't get that. You know, if it were George McIntyre who had a deal beforehand, I guarantee you nobody'd be saying anything about it or anything. So why is it a big deal at the Paldo twins? Just because you have a deal beforehand does not mean you're going to come in and be a cancer to the program or anything. I think Kim Caldwell and her staff are smart enough and doing due diligence. You look at her staff she's brought in. She has numerous associate head coaches who came in to be with her. They're going to recruit well down here. I mean, what did the previous staff do recruiting wise? Nothing. They did nothing. I mean, they hit the portal, but didn't even sign anybody last year? I mean, come on, man. This is some good talent that they're bringing in. And this is the era. Women deserve NIL as well. All right. So I just can't. It kind of blew my mind to people complaining that the Paldo twins about their NIL. Good for them. Good for them that they're able to do it. It should be. They should be able to get it too. Just the same as football players, just the same as men basketball and so on with it. You get Nyla Brooks in the fold, top 20 player that they've got her visiting in the middle of October, I think 18th through the 20th. So that would be Alabama game. That's a good weekend to bring her in. So I'm wondering if Kim Caldwell and that staff doesn't load up for that weekend. I wonder if they'll play off of football as well to get them in the fold. And then I think the biggest thing after that for Kim Caldwell, they're going to do it on the court. That's where they're going to have to do it. You can sell this Lady Vols brand all you want to. The bottom line is, the Paldo twins said they're not afraid. They're coming in to bring national championship back to Tennessee where it belongs. Who else is going to buy into that? You've got to sell, to an extent, the history of the program. You have to, because it's fallen off over the years. It's not been the standard that it is. It bothered me last year. Like I said, some of the students I have, girls that play basketball, great kids. And I asked them, ever heard of Pat Summitt? They'd never heard of her. Number one, they're younger, obviously. But number two, it's because Lady Vols have honestly been irrelevant for a few years. Yeah, they make the tournament. They may occasionally make a Sweet 16 or something under Harper, under Holly. Down here, Dawn Staley. Dawn Staley's the queen down here. I mean, Dawn's awesome. She's top notch. But, I mean, you see what Dawn Staley's doing. You see with, what's her name at LSU? Mulkey, Gino. I mean, Gino's getting behind Staley and Mulkey a little bit right now. Of course, Iowa with Caitlin Clark this year, what she's done, doing it in that WNBA. Angel Reese doing it in the WNBA. Jackson, she's doing pretty good as well. But the Lady Vols, I think the biggest thing for the Lady Vols is going to be on the court. I think she'll do well. I think she'll win some basketball games. But, when some of these players start seeing it, especially that style of play that she's going to use, I think it'll sell itself. As long as you're winning. If you're not winning, it's not going to sell. It's just not going to. But they start winning games. They start playing that brand of basketball that they were, then it'll be pretty good. Let's see. I'm not saying she deserved to lose her job, but didn't bring the recruits. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough one. And I've said it. I've not always been the connoisseur of the Lady Vols. Definitely not. But I've kept up with it enough to know. I mean, probably the most out of shape been out of shape. I got over a game was that South Carolina game in the women's tournament this year. I mean, I still am just still can't believe that one. But yeah, Kelly wasn't recruiting at and from what I understand, she had a chance to come back, but with staff changes. And I just wonder if one of the staff changes was not her husband that they wanted to make. I can't help but think that. Now, that's the way I read it. Maybe I'm wrong on how I interpreted that. But we'll see. I think Kim Caldwell is going to do well down here. I like what she's done. Seems energetic. She seems like she has that style of play. And, one of the interviews they asked her this week, I can't remember the question, but she said, I won't allow them to. So she's going to be commanding. It's not that Kelly or Holly or none of them were not. I don't know. I just think I like what it is. And maybe because it's, it's fresh. It's someone new in the program. But I think there's a lot of potential in this program. And to me, I thought it was a big deal, them getting the Paldo twins. I thought it was a big deal. I thought it was a real shot in the arm for this program. Men's basketball, Drago asks, before I hit men's, I'm trying to think to have anything else on Lady Vols. I was looking a little bit, trying to see. I don't want to sell them short here, but I just don't. I think the Nyla Brooks thing was the biggest news that I've seen about her visiting October 18th through 20th. And, the fact that that's, I think that's a big deal, especially that they've made those inroads because she was committed under the previous staff. She decommitted. Does Coach Williams from before get back in or what? So they've been able, that tells me they're doing a pretty good job recruiting that they're able to get back in on that one. So anything else I really need to start hitting more of this stuff for sure. I've kind of I wouldn't say dropped the ball, but I've traveled a little bit here recently and stuff. So I've not been as on that stuff as I want. So I'm hoping to sit down and find some stuff tomorrow to put on. Of course, Major League Baseball draft going. Let's see. Somebody asked here. Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sanders. I thought Kim, Coach Caldwell, I thought she did excellent in the portal. She brought in 5 Power 5 transfers, and all of them at their previous schools. They were good players at their previous schools as well. She's loaded up bringing in those 5 transfers. So just hitting that back. Let me find, where's my website I had here? So again, you brought in Samara Spencer from Arkansas. She was former, all freshman team? If not SEC freshman of the year, I can't remember on that. Definitely all freshmen. Ruby Whitehorn was a double-digit scorer at Clemson. Lazaria Spearman did pretty good at Miami. Alyssa Latham was a very high recruit at Syracuse. She did, I'm thinking she was around 10 points a game at Syracuse. And then you brought in Iredell from Pitt, who was in their rotation at Pitt. So the fact that they brought in 5 players from the portal and all of them were Power 5 transfers and they were contributors at Power 5 schools, you pair that with what they already have, that's pretty good. I like it. I like what they've done. And then, like I said, you pair it with what you've done. Then you have the one, let's see, Boyd, the combo guard, Kania Boyd, who come in. I think she's out of Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. You add her in. She's supposed to be a good guard. How does she factor in here as well? I was trying to look here. She enrolled in January this past year. Of course, you got Jules Spear back, which was big, using her year. So the Lady Vols back in April, Nyla Brooks reopened her commitment, and then a 2027 Finley Chastain reopened hers. So Kim Caldwell and staff, they do have plenty of time to get her back in the fold. Tess Darby, of course, announced she's returning. They did have Stripling hit the portal and went to Indiana. And that's really the only attrition other than to the WNBA. And then you added those players. I think this will be a solid roster this year. I really do. I think they're going to have a really solid roster. I expect Kim Caldwell to do well out of the gate. I don't know if I compare it to like a Bruce Pearl type entry, but I think the style of ball will be exciting. I think it'll translate over to recruiting, and it already seems like they're making roads there with recruiting. I think good things are on the horizon here for sure. And then men's basketball, not much news on the men's basketball. I mean, based on what I've seen this summer, I mean, you had Igor Milicic Jr. playing for Poland's qualifying team to get into the Olympics. I'm excited about Igor Milicic Jr. I think he's going to be big time. Tennessee 6'10", he can shoot outside, he can drive, he can rebound, he can pass. I think this dude's going to be the underrated pickup of the cycle for Tennessee. Dubar adds scoring. I'm excited. He was a top 5 efficiency and offense. Of course, Chaz Lanier, I mean, talked about it last week, but I had a video talk about it a little bit as well. Chaz Lanier with that KD challenge where he's only the second one, Rick Barnes' tenure to do it. Of course, you're going to have Ziegler back, Jemai Meshack back. Felix Okpara is going to add, hopefully, that inside presence. Cam Carr, what steps is JP Estrella going to take? I think it's a key. What's Kate Phillips going to bring? Jordan Gainey, what's he going to bring to the equation as well? You know, you've got the one freshman, Bishop Boswell. How's he going to factor in? I've heard from what I've read that they're excited about him. I mean, like I said, Cameron Carr, keep talking about him. I've read a couple articles on him and just how he looked really good at Jason Tatum Elite Camp, which is invitation only to the top things in the country. And I think people are sleeping on Cameron Carr. And again, from what I've read, that was a big reason Cade Tyson did not end up at Tennessee's, because they were concerned of Cameron Carr leaving. And now I don't know that how much of that's true based on how I've read it, how I interpreted reading it. Tennessee basically chose Cam Carr over Cade Tyson. Shame I couldn't have both, because I think Cade Tyson would have been a big-time addition. He'll do well at North Carolina. But Cam Carr, I expect big things out of him this year. There's even been a mock draft had him like top 10 for next year. I can't remember there it is. Herb right here, projected top 10. I cannot remember what that website is that had it. It wasn't like ESPN or any of your main ones that I can remember, but there was one had him like 8th overall. So, you know, we'll see. I'm excited about that men's basketball team this year. I think a Final Four is possible. There, which site was it recently? One of them redid all their rankings, I guess, with all the transfers after the NBA draft, with everything. And Tennessee was now on that site ranked 5th going into next year, first in the SEC. Now, I think big things are ahead for this Tennessee team. And I'm going to be curious with the Peach Jam in Augusta, Georgia, North Augusta, South Carolina going on, if that's kind of where your Zakai Ziegler, Tobey Awakas, they found them late. Did they find any more guys late in the game this year that because they do still have a couple spots left that they can fill on the men's side? I don't know that they will, but it also wouldn't shock me if they found someone down here, had them visit, and got them in the fold as well. I think the men's team is going to be better all around this year. They're not going to have a Dalton Connect. Yes, better than last year, in my opinion. I think they have a chance to be as well. Here's what I like. You have guys like Chaz Lanier, Darlene Stone-Dubar, Cameron Carr. What's going to make them better? I'll tell you what's going to make them better. You've got the best defensive player in the entire country going to be on them in practice every day in Jemai Meshack. Zakai Ziegler won SEC Defensive Player of the Year last year, but he's not even the best defensive player on his team, and that's no disrespect, no slight towards him. Jemai Meshack is that dude when it comes to defense. He is the best in the entire country when it comes to defense. No question about it in my mind. I'm excited about that team. I'm excited, all the teams this year. I'm excited for what football their potential. I'm excited for men's basketball. I'm excited for the Lady Vols basketball and their potential. I'm really excited for baseball next year as they set out to repeat, and I think they're going to have a real good shot. I'm not saying they will by any means. It's hard to do, but they'll have the roster and the pitching to do it. I mean, from what it seems, Lady Vols softball should be right up there competing again as well. It's I said it back before they won national title in baseball. If you're going to call yourself an everything school, you got to win some national championships. Well, we've got one. That's the first, and what I think will be more to come in these programs around Tennessee. It's a good time to be a Tennessee fan right now. There's a lot going on. If you notice out here, there's so much coverage on Tennessee just out here on social media, on YouTube, just around. There's so much out here right now. And I still don't know that everybody kind of has their niche when it comes to that. Mine on here is baseball and Lady Vols. I've got to provide a little more Lady Vols and really basketball too. We'll get there with football, but there's numerous other channels who covers it more thoroughly than I do, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but I've not shied away from that. But you'll get good football news here as well. Make no mistake about it. But baseball, basketball, Lady Vols basketball, this is going to be your place right here. I'll be honest, a lot of you have asked on softball. I'll see if I can fit it in. I have heard about the South Carolina and the Texas transfers. I've not heard on the Washington one. So, if anybody's got information on that one, you can fill me in. I can look maybe a little bit more on that. Definitely know they got the pitcher from South Carolina, and you got the player. I can't remember, from Texas. I think she's actually from Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. But football playoffs, I feel confident this team makes playoffs this year. 12-team playoff, you can lose 2 games and make the playoffs. I think this team goes 9-3 or 8-4. I don't know if I'd say disappointment, depending on who it is, but I don't know. That's a tough one. I think the expectation should be playoffs this year. I really do. I'm not saying national championship. I'm not saying win the SEC, but I do think it's realistic with the 12-team playoff that Tennessee should be one of the best 12 teams in college football. I really do. But I'm going to wrap up on that one, guys, man. I appreciate y'all hanging in here tonight. We talked a lot of stuff. I'll be honest, I could sit here all night long and talk this stuff. I really could, especially with me still on break for a couple more weeks. I could sit here all night long, but we'll wrap up on that. I could talk baseball all night long. I could go and go and go. Probably get tired of hearing me. So we're probably tired of hearing me at 1 hour and 43 minutes. But thank you guys so much. Like I said, if you like the content, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Anybody you may know that's a Tennessee fan if they've not discovered the channel or if they've not come across it, share it out to them. Have them come on, in the comments or what have you. Check it out. Let's just plan on. I do have to do this because I feel like, what do I have next week? I am good. Monday night. You guys in the comments here, and I'll give it here a minute. Does 7 or 7:30 work best for y'all? I'll sit here and ramble about something for a minute, just kind of get your all's feedback. We'll just plan on Monday nights. I want to get the feedback from y'all. Does it work better for you for 7 or 7:30? And I can kind of go off of that. And if you're not able to comment before the end here, or if you listen to this later on and you're one that, may be interested in participating in the live show, tell me, what do you think? 7:30. For me, I try to give everybody enough time to, get home, eat, and all that. But, if the overwhelming majority would rather go live at 7 o'clock, I'm good with that too. I'm good with either time because I'm normally done eating at that. I've normally done what I need to do for the night, and I can come in. So go ahead and leave me a comment here, or leave me one after the show if you'd like. Just tell me. Say I'll just plan on 7:30. If I get enough feedback in the comments where people say, hey, it'd work better for me 7, we'll roll with that as well. Or maybe we try it one night at 7. Also, 7:30, Herb, I like it. Okay, we can roll with that. I have no problem staying with it. So I'm gonna wrap up here. I will have I'll put some content out tomorrow. I'm going really the content I'm gonna do in the morning is just recapping the first 2 days of the baseball draft. So it's not really gonna be anything. Make sure you check out the content. I'll see if there's because there'll probably be some more news tonight on guys who are saying they're coming to campus. So I don't think we have all the news we're going to have tonight on baseball, but I'll have a recap tomorrow talking about the first 2 days of the draft and then kind of maybe what's expected for day 3. And now I'm going to see what I can find on some Lady Vols content as well. Get it out here. May just record a short video on Nyla Brooks coming in. What's the chances? What's her recruitment looking like? And then we'll go from there. Of course, media days tomorrow. SEC media days tomorrow afternoon. I'll probably record something after that. Just kind of brief recap on what was said, anything of significance that may be said there as well. I think Tennessee goes. Let me see. Let me see if I can find Tennessee's schedule. Let me see if I've got it on UT Sports as well. I'm trying to Google it here as well. Let's see if football's got anything. But I'm pretty sure Tennessee goes off tomorrow afternoon. So they definitely have where you can watch it live on utsports.com. Of course, it'll be on the SEC network as well. SEC network full coverage. Heupel will be on the main stage at 11:35 Eastern time. Okay, and then the network set with the guests at approximately 12:45. Players in the main media room at 12:15. These are all Eastern time. Looks like they'll start talking about it at 7 a.m. in the morning. So it looks like 11:35 is when Josh Heupel takes the stage. He'll say, "How y'all doing? Good to see y'all. It's been a good off season, and we're just ready to get started." He'll start out with something along those lines. But I'll release something after that, just kind of recapping a little bit on here, and we'll go ahead and wrap up from here. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great night. I hope you have a great day tomorrow. Great and safe day. It's your guy, Frank Rock. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. It's from UT Sports. Last but most certainly not least, go Vols.